Real Estate Rockstars, this is Aaron Amuchastegui. Hey, you've probably heard about the mastermind that we hosted in Austin over the last 4 years for all of our podcast listeners. And this last March, we had a fantastic time, a bunch of amazing speakers, and great fellowship. Well, I wanted to take some of those speaker talks that we had and release them to you guys here on the podcast so you can get the value that our members got when they were there, and also make you think about maybe joining us next year. So we've just released the dates for next year. It's February 25th through 27th, and we're only selling tickets for the next 30 or 40 days, and then we're going to lock down the orders, and so we can start, sending out the value ads for all of that. And if you end up joining the podcast mastermind, if you end up signing for the mastermind, you get to become a part of our private Facebook group, our private circle app, all sorts of referrals between different people. And then you'll also get recordings, all the recordings for the past several years of masterminds that we've had. But, just so you can hear a little bit more about kind of what you missed, get some added value just for being a listener, because I appreciate all of you guys that are here. Here is one of the clips of that, or here's one of the, 45-minute talks. I hope you guys love it. So Daniel, come on.
Thank you, buddy. Hey, we'll have him come back at the end and do a Q&A. Yeah. David, you took my song. Damn it. You have got one shot. That was the song, and he's got it. All right, good. Here we go. So today, you are all here for one thing, and that is to build wealth. And my job today on this stage is to help you understand how I have done it. I've done it through leverage. And I'm not, it's funny, I'm following Eric. He lost a bunch of weight. I got a weight story up here. I'm following David. I've built some wealth. I'm following David. He's got a lot of wealth. But the point, I'm going to give you real world examples. I've got 2 examples of leverage, building wealth. And then I'm going to give you the exact formulas that I've used throughout the last 20 years, basically do incredible things in my life. I'm a doer. Tactics actually matter. And so after this conversation, after this presentation, I'm hoping that you can go back to your world and make significant impact. That's my job today up here on stage. So Archimedes famously said, give me a lever large enough and I can move the world. But everybody talks about leverage and delegating. They don't typically define it very clearly. So leverage is simply this. It's simply a tool to give you an advantage in life. But people are scared. People are scared. I don't want to take that risk. I don't want to hire that person. I don't want to buy that system. I'm afraid of partnering with that person. I'm afraid of taking that big debt on. But leverage is a tool to give you advantage in life. The reality is it can be as simple. Anybody open a can of, it can be as simple as a dishcloth to help you open a can of olives. I like olives. Who likes olives in here? I like olives. But the reality is people overthink this. And there are actually 13 different tools in order to open that jar of olives. 13. Blows your mind, right? Imagine building wealth. How many different tools are in your toolbox to actually build wealth? That's what we're going to talk about today. So there's a challenge, and I'm going to walk amongst you because I don't like being up on stage. It's weird. And somebody's going to have to tell me what ghost flipping is, because I think that's an interesting one. Some challenges in life. I don't know about you guys, but I need to actually do the mistake. I actually learn by doing, and then I make a mistake. The challenge with that, though, is that you get hurt in the heart. When you hurt somebody, you hire the wrong person, you have a conflict. When you are the person in the field doing the work, you're learning the lessons. The first place you get hurt is the heart. The second place, which is very painful, is the wallet, right? Those are the 2 places. There's this idea of other people's experiences. That's what I'm going to share with you today. My experience building wealth and building leverage. Now, other people's experience, you don't have to go through the pain losing a lot of money. I've lost millions. If you've won, you've lost. That's just the reality of it. I've learned lessons through either getting hurt in the heart or losing lots of money. The other way, other people's experience, is your own personal. So today, what I'd like you to do is think through how can you take some of these lessons in your own life and apply them back at home, because that's the whole point of today. I love what David said, take one or two things. I'm hopeful that you think leverage might be the way forward for you on this journey of wealth. There I am, not quite as fat as Eric. Thank you, Eric. Yeah, not quite as fat. But again, I had to learn the lessons myself. In building wealth, I think the hardest challenge is you have to narrow your focus. You have to fully commit and go all in a way that can be challenging for the other areas of your life. I sacrificed health in order to build a business. This is 2009. Lots of crazy things. I'm 209 right now, working out every single day, which is wild. But the reality, it's through leverage. And so I'm going to share the leverage in order to make that transformation. The reality is, this is my peer group. This is my pod inside Go Abundance. I meet with these guys every single week. And it's wild what happens when you have another person in your life who actually cares about your goal. David talked about this. This is absolutely a game changer. And this is massive leverage because every single one of them, they're not scared to say, you're full of shit, Daniel. Why are you focused on this? You said you were going to do the work. What's wrong with you? But for me, this group wasn't enough. So we actually started this is called Fierce, a mastermind that I'm in. These same guys have been together with me we meet every quarter, and we go over large strategic initiatives inside each other's life, family, and business. So it's different than the Go Abundance pod. These are my strategists, and each one of them by themselves are large company CEOs. This goes back to David's conversation about find somebody else in your world who wants to do the things that you want to do. So each one, there's a guy up here who's got a $1.8 billion company. This guy on the left, I just became an investor in his company. It's Gutter Glove. It is one of the largest gutter covers company in the world, and it's a really cool company. They manufacture gutter gloves in the US, which is unique. But it's a huge company, and Matt is an amazing CEO. He grew that company. He came on board at $10 million. This year, they'll do $65 million. So I've surrounded myself with other people on that same wealth building journey, and we meet and we talk strategy. Very different than habits with the other group. This other group, went the wrong way. This other group, daily habits, accountability, a lot of conversations about family, kids, health. That's this group. This group, strategy, growing wealth, a lot of family, a lot of where are you going in the world. So I have two different worlds in which I give this. Now, I love this too. This is a picture. You guys see yourself in here? David's here. We've got some folks, international trip we do in Go Abundance every year. We travel somewhere, and that is a place where I fully disconnect for 7 to 10 days. No cell phones, no business, no world. Why does this matter? These are all the people that have helped me lose the weight. I hired a spirit coach, which is also very weird. Remember we talked about the heart? When you're building something special, you need supporters in your life, but peers can only give you so much of your time. You can only spend so much, and they're not fully focused on you, they're focused on the whole group. So I have a therapist. I've been going to him, I want to say 7-8 years, and Janai I hired in 2017. The therapist takes care of my head, which, a little crazy up there, and the spirit coach takes care of my heart, because those are two different things that need to function at a really, really high level. These are important things. And I share with them, what are my goals? Like, what am I trying to accomplish right now? What's going on in my relationships and the people in the world that I'm living in? And these people's job is to help me win, no matter what. And the moment I don't, that's a problem for them, because that's why they're there. They're fully focused. And by the way, it's weird to go to a therapist and say, everything's going well. I don't have anything to talk about. We still talk about stuff, and I don't stop that habit because it's really an important one. I have a coach, CEO International, really interesting guy. He ran a $1 billion company like mine. He was the chief revenue officer for that company, and then he helped another company go public for the exact same kind of company, like a talent, staffing, virtual assistant company. So the point here is find somebody in your world who is a coach who did exactly what you're trying to accomplish in your wealth journey. It's really a big deal. I sat down with him the first time. He's like, Daniel, you need to change this, 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 and this. We increased our growth by 10%. I was like, whoa. He's done the work. He knows exactly what's going on. So this leverage, this transformation of my health, this is the way to get it done. You set a goal, track daily habits in a system. This last part is really important. How many people in here have their goals in some sort of a system? Raise your hand. A platform, a technology, a system. Okay, how many think you might want to put your goals in a system? Because a system is something that lives and breathes outside of you. This is what's important about a system. It exists, people can help you in it, you can see it, you can create visualizations of it. I know exactly the amount of food I ate 60 years ago because I track it every day, MyFitnessPal. That gets put into this audit, which is actually another crazy, this is how my brain works, so please forgive me. But all of the food that I eat, the exercise that I do, I get blood tests, I do a body scan. Basically, I'm sharing with you my entire system for transforming anything. And it all jumps into an Excel spreadsheet that I look at and review. Now, my virtual assistant puts this together for me, but the point is, every single thing inside this system operates independently. When I go in and get a body scan, which I just did last week after a vacation, by the way, you don't want to get a body scan after a 12-day vacation because it's disappointing. That gets dropped in here, and I can track it over time. An audit, this is what's really important. It's not what I'm doing here, but it's the system of leverage. The audit, the point of the audit is if you spend 6 months doing a thing, you can transform your life. But most people, when you ask them, hey, how are you doing? They go, oh, I'm doing really good. And then you're like, yeah, but you had this goal, and so I'm curious, like, how often are you tracking? What's the results? Like, are you using a coach? Is somebody helping you through that? The reality is you've got to, when somebody says, how is it going? You have to actually be able to quantify whether you're hitting your goals. I'm at goal by 70%. I'm at goal by 90%. This is the difference between actually accomplishing wealth in your life and not. An audit. By the way, we have 2,500 virtual assistants that work across 1,500 different businesses. This is what's missing in every $1, $2, $3 million business that wants to go to 10. They have a bunch of salespeople doing sales, and they don't know why it's not working because nobody is actually auditing the system. See, a system produces the results in your life, which is kind of crazy. So get help. Trusted allies. I like the word allies. Each of you are allies in this room. In fact, I would challenge you right now to find somebody that you think is really cool, that you kind of jive with, and is also as committed as you are in this room. Somebody like Daniel, Aaron. These are my friends for almost a decade who know my systems and hold me accountable. I remember Daniel over here, Del Real, he called me a couple of years ago, and it was just like out of the blue. He's like, hey, it's been a year. How you doing with that goal? And right there in my heart, like it changed me. I'm like, man, he really cares that I hit my goal. And it's a really cool experience. So track it daily in habits, have allies. Whoa, I'm going the wrong way, you guys. Okay. Here's the reality. With this health thing, turns out alcohol doesn't like my body. I was working out, had the coach, had the trainer, did all the work, tracked daily, did the body scans, continued to drink, went from like beer and wine, which is like my jam, to, okay, I'm gonna try, vodka and soda. No calories, but for whatever reason, I put alcohol in my body and I just cannot lose weight. I cannot build muscle. I'm not fit. So here's a really big point that most people never talk about. They set goals, they never hit those goals. Or they set goals and they want to hit those goals, but then they give up at some point. So you must reaffirm your goals because it's gonna be hard. In this wealth building world, actually in anything that really matters, nothing is gonna go exactly the way you think it's gonna go. You're gonna set a goal, you're gonna think that you're gonna have to do this much work, and it's really gonna require this much work. You're gonna think you're just gonna need a coach or maybe a mentor or somebody to help you, and you're gonna need a whole team to help you. And the reality is, if it's not that important, you shouldn't set the goal. But if it's a thing that will transform your life, you're gonna have to stick with it over the long term. Over the long term, do the work. Again, in talking, everybody owns a business here? Raise your hand, I just wanna make sure. Most do, some W-2s. I saw that out in the dream board. It was really cool. The reality is two things. One, understanding leverage and building a system, that's the differentiator in business. Those are the people who go from $1 million to 10, from 10 to 50, 50 to 100. They have a system. The other piece is that whenever I find a leader who really crushes it, like the kind of person that scares you, I have this friend, his name's Tyler. I look over, my wife and I were flying to New York a couple weeks ago, and there's Tyler. And he owns this software company, sold to Fidelity, an amazing human, really wealthy, but also fucking scary. Like he's scary, he's so good. Like he just executes. Like I remember as a realtor, I used to send thank you cards to people. Thank you for the referral, little gift card. He goes, oh yeah, I did that too. Goes into his closet, he ruffles around. He's got a really big thank you, like a man-sized thank you card. He's like, that's what he sent. I sent a little guy with a gift card. He sends a man-sized thank you, like a 2-story thank you card. That guy scares me. He's also the right person to be a peer with, because that's who you have to look to. You need to find somebody, and hopefully multiple somebodies, who are willing to do the work and are so scary good. You have to have that, you know that feeling when you're afraid, maybe I can't do this? That's how you need to go forward. That's how you know that's the right thing to do, because it's gotta be a little bit scary, and you need to do the work. Why is health so important? We've talked about it. David's talking about mental health. Eric, giving back, being a leader. Why is it so important? This is that peer group. It's called Fierce. The guy in the middle there, his name's Jay Shelby. And it's weird because last week he died. He sold his businesses, moved to Idaho, left our group, got depressed, did some things that aren't good. The reality is health and time are the only two things you can't get back when they're gone. Like that's it. Once it's gone, it's gone. There's this massive survey of ultra wealthy individuals. And it's really interesting because there's about 3,000 in the world that are billion-dollar folks and higher. They do this survey, and they say, what would you give for 10 more years? 90%. They said they'd give 90% of all of their wealth away to get 10 more years. You don't have to give your wealth away, right? Those are people who are 70 or 80. You guys can do it right now. The 23-year-old who's chaotic, I'm like, 26-year-old, I'm like, I'm 46. What would I give for 20 more years? I'd give anything, right? So that was one example of leverage. That's his wife on the right. That's our bookkeeper. at my out desk. She's actually been with us 8-9 years, the gal in the red. But Jay was a great person, and he just got off his rocker, and we couldn't save him. It's wild. Financial leverage. I also want to encourage you. Sometimes it can feel daunting when you hear speakers and people talk about wealth, 100 million, 50 million, I'm going to buy this million, I'm saving millions, I didn't do this. The reality, it doesn't have to be crazy. I'm just going to tell you the story. This is my first house. I'm sorry, the picture's not great. MLS. This is back in the early 2000s. I pulled this directly from the MLS. This is what marketing was 26 years ago, by the way. So this is 3509 Scorpio Drive. I'm a real estate guy. My wife jokes at me. She's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm just a little bit of house porn, just scrolling through MLS. And I still, even to this day, do it every single night. I'm like, what commercial properties? I'm into hotels right now, so I look at every hotel that sells across the country. But this is 3509 Scorpio Drive. It was the first house I ever bought. And what happened, this is a really crazy story. The real estate agent shows up in a beautiful Mercedes. It smells good. It's brand new. He's dressed in a suit. I'm like, damn. And I've never bought a house before. I'm like, so what's going on? He says, hey, Daniel, we're going to look at 8 houses, and at the end of the day, you're going to pick one. So, of course, I picked the one with green carpets and popcorn ceilings, Like, I'm gonna fix this house. What's interesting about that experience is he made a lot of money. The mortgage person made a lot of money. I have a finance degree from Sac State, and I worked for Barclays Global Investors, and I'm right out of college making $40,000 a year. I think I'm rich. These guys made $15,000 doing the mortgage and selling me this house. And I'm like, holy moly, it takes me 6 months to make that kind of money. I think I'm gonna be a real estate guy. So I started buying properties, and I didn't have any money at this time. I'm a kid, 26, but I had a lot of ingenuity. So it turns out I had friends. Brett Erickson, we were both in Dum Dum English, by the way, together. That's the class in college that, Daniel, you really need to learn how to read and write. He tested out of the class. I had to keep doing it and finish it for the semester. Alan was my supervisor. While I was in college, I worked for Wells Fargo. He was my boss. So we spent a lot of time playing ping pong in the break room because he was the boss. So Bad Properties, I had no money, but I had friends. And so Bad Properties is created. And this is our first flip. We called this affectionately the Green Monster. You could see it. There was a hoarder living there. You walked through the house and you could barely, get through. We turned it, flipped it, and here's the leverage in this. And the point of this portion of the conversation is leverage isn't always money. It isn't always time. Sometimes it can be a cool idea. So my formula to win, and I'd encourage you guys to create your formula in real estate. I would borrow money, like I had none, so that was like my only option, was to borrow it. I'd flip to, and then I'd buy a long-term hold. That was kind of my thing. Bigger, bigger, bigger. And Monopoly. What's wild is, I play Monopoly with my girls. I have 3 girls. And they're like, Daddy, how many hotels do we own? I'm like, that's exactly it. Like, I bought houses, flipped them, bought rentals, held them, grew equity, sold them. Now we're buying hotels. But I would encourage you, what formula in your world would work for you? Like, that's the conversation today. Here was what I did. I had no money. Innovation is everything. You guys heard China. They built this new AI without any of the tools that we thought they needed. They did it for a fraction of the cost, and now it competes, and it's actually good. Innovation is everything. In your life, there is always a way. People miss this. I'm not sure why. It's important. I had friends. I had credit cards. Holy moly. They'd give a kid who was 26 a lot of money in credit cards. I had like $60,000 in credit cards, which meant for my flips, all the materials would happen there. This is also crazy. Went into Home Depot and I was like, hey, I want a discount. They're like, okay, you're getting 20% off. I'm like, I know, I want more. And they're like, well, if you are a contractor, we could give you another 10%. I was like, okay, sweet. How do I become a contractor? So like that week, I signed up, and I'm actually a general contractor right now. And it was all because I wanted to save another 10% to buy more properties, you know? And credit cards, 0% interest. So all my materials came from that, which is crazy. Turns out I found a hard money lender who would give me almost all, and this is back before there were all these cool options today, by the way. This was like an old dude. His name was Des Hutton. His son and him would walk around and then actually inspect the properties that we're going to buy, and then they would just right then and there say, okay, Daniel, I'll give you 150 grand. I was like, sweet. So again, I had no money. I found a contractor who agreed to get paid 90 days after the work. So I paid for the materials, he did the work, and he would take the payment 90 days after. By the way, in that time frame, it was the early 2000s, a house would sell in like 5 days. So I was like, okay, if I work this out, right, escrow would pay the contractor, and I wouldn't even see that money, and I didn't have to pay for anything. So let me roll all this together. By the way, this is the leverage that I'm talking about. Friends, credit cards, hard money, a friendly, trusted contractor, but the point is, in real estate, you don't make money when you sell. You make it when you buy. And I had found a deal. That ugly green monster, I paid 100 grand for that. In California, that's a big deal. And that was the leverage in this financial. I'm sharing this story because there's so many ways to actually buy and build wealth in real estate. There's just so many ways. This is just one of the ways I've done it. This is this is the 12 Ds of real estate. I figured since it's Real Estate Rockstars, I ought to share this. Yeah. So these are delisted, drugs, delusional. How many people have worked with a delusional for sale by owner? Oh my God. You're like, sir, you don't actually have a house, you have a shack. And it's not worth $1 million. What's cool is we've broken this up into two sides, by the way. On the left side, this is all data, so you can actually pull this stuff. I mean, if a property is on MLS and then it gets delisted, you can actually pull a list of those homes. On the right, those are a little bit harder and you have to know somebody or have relationships, but these are just some of the ways you can find deals. There's probably more. This is how I did it my whole life. All right, CEO journey to leverage. What's interesting is you guys just got a kind of a peek into my mind with leverage, but I've applied that same process in business, and I'm going to share with you this process in my Outdesk and my other companies. By the way, this is what it feels like to be a CEO. Who can identify with that? Yeah. Oh my God. Like, there are days when you're like, I am God's gift, and then there's other days like I literally drove out of my house, I don't know, a couple of years ago, and I thought, maybe I should just get a job. It's wild. This is where I grew up, actually, a trailer park, Big City Knolls. What's crazy about that, this little front part, as a kid, I thought we were rich because this little front part was a pool. And so, you know, when you're 5, 6, 7 years old and you're swimming in a pool, the world is right. And it doesn't matter. Like, as long as you got food and you're swimming in a pool, like, everything is good. But growing up poor gave me two things, I think. It's really important. Number one, I'm not afraid of having nothing. Fear stops so many people from accomplishing their goals. Like fear, true fear. And if I'd like you to think about it, what have you been afraid to do in your own life? We got a couple heavy sighs. So growing up poor, I'm not afraid of losing everything or having nothing. I've been there, done that. It's bad, but it's fine. The other thing that happened is my father couldn't give me anything. A good friend of mine owns this company called the Trenchless Company. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it. National company, really cool company. They don't dig in the ground, they drill under things. And I met with his dad, and his dad's got lots of money, and he's a Sacramento guy, where I'm from. And I said, hey, how did Max turn out so good? Max, my age, great guy, owns this company, family guy, just a really good human. And, he looks at me and he goes, Daniel, I didn't give him nothing. Like, nothing. I'm like, did you buy clothes? He's like, yeah, I bought clothes. But he started his business. I didn't fund any of it. He got married. I went to the wedding. I didn't pay for it. And so because my dad didn't give me anything, and my friend's dad, Max, didn't give him anything, we aren't afraid of doing the work. And that's the other thing that is missing. If you right now are in this room saying, I want to be wealthy, get prepared to work. That's it. Like, be cool with that. Like, let's go. I was cool with that. Sometimes wanting something puts you in a position where you'll do anything, and that's where I was. This is actually my honeymoon. So it's 2009. It's 2009. I'm at a Francis Ford Coppola resort, okay? And that's in Guatemala. It's in the trees. There's monkeys. And I'm a real estate guy, and if you were around in 2009, it was a crazy ass time for real estate people. Foreclosures, everything was difficult. But what happens in this story is, I'm going to borrow this real quick. Thank you so much. I knew you'd say yes. The bartender comes over and says, hey, Daniel, what is wrong? He'd gotten to know my wife and I. We're married like 2 days. And he starts making fun of me in Spanish. Money's your God, beautiful bride back in the room. It's 2 a.m, by the way, and I'm just working. The reality is I came out of that going, okay, I need support. I need some more leverage in my life. I need to hire the right people because I'm doing it wrong. Something is off. And that's the reality of owning your own ship. Like, you're going to work really hard, think you have the plan, and then end up on your honeymoon, working. How many people in this room have worked on holidays, weekends, evenings? Yep. You're like, yep. Somebody in the back jumps up, yep. I had a business that owned me. But like a kid, as a kid growing up poor, I was like, I'm going to be rich. In that moment, when the bartender took the phone, I was like, I'm going to fix this business. I'm doing it wrong. Something's off. So I wanted to be on vacation. So my wife and I actually went on a vacation in New York, and this is for her birthday in January. And I've been doing this job for nearly 20 years. No work on this vacation. The shift or the difference is that I wanted to have this. So as you're writing your goals, you have to have something so valuable to yourself that you're willing to give up other things in order to accomplish your goals. I wanted to be married, wanted to have kids, I wanted to have a life, I didn't want to be fat, I wanted to own a business. I wanted to own a business, not have the business own me. And so for me, that lesson was leverage. The first virtual assistant that I ever hired is Julie. She came to our office last year. We actually got an opportunity to record a podcast. And after the honeymoon, I came back and I started giving her everything I could give her. But you can't give them things without direction. And so that's when I really went on this path of understanding what it means to be a CEO. Like, people need help. They need a process, they need coaching, they need training, they need an audit, they're gonna need your time. It's gonna feel like, oh my God, I've got this job and this business that needs to run, and this person needs my help. And I wanna encourage you guys, as you are hiring people, to help that person, because it will be the difference maker. What's interesting is I'm not good at paperwork. I'm not good at keeping a calendar. There's a lot of things I'm not good at. She's amazing at all those things. Today we have 2,500 employees. This was us in 2011. I love this photo. You can kind of see how chunky I am there. It's pretty wild. That Don is right here, is to the right, husband of one of our first employees. But this is us today, which is crazy. And it was all that innovation. Remember that slide about innovation? like how I bought houses, that's how this happened too. Like I was at my honeymoon. I didn't want, oh, I got 6 minutes. This is good. You guys, we're going to end on time. I'm going to answer questions. I'm on my honeymoon, and I'm like, okay, something has to change. The lessons that I learned about transforming my real estate practice, we then apply to our client's business. What we're saying is, hey, what's the highest and best use of your time? What's the thing that really turns the needle? For me, as a real estate person, it was finding the deals. Like, who was going to sell, who was going to buy. Finding the deal was the one thing that if I did it, everything else, somebody else could do. And so we started giving away as much as we possibly can. There's this framework. By the way, none of this stuff is mine. I want to be clear about this. I'm taking stuff that every business owner that's had a lot of success knows, repackaging it, putting it together for you guys with my business. So I do it. How many people are in the I do it stage right now where you don't have a team? Okay. How many people are in the we do it stage right now? Well, it's half and half. That's pretty good. Okay. What's interesting, almost died. Almost died. Jesus. These are not regulation, Aaron. I'm going to get OSHA in here. We're from California, so this would never fly.
Andy's not getting paid.
I'm kidding, actually. This initial learning, as a business owner, what you're doing is you're skill stacking. And that's the job in this room. Skill stacking. How to work with clients, how to market, how to build systems and processes, how to hire and leverage. These are some of the major skills that you're learning in this world. As you grow your business and you move to the we do it, it becomes systems and process. That's all about training, leadership. How do you get somebody the tools that they need? How do you give them the process that they need? What's interesting is if you split the world, see the different colors, how we did that, marketing? This side is 96% of the world. 96% of all businesses are under $1 million in revenue. The staggering number about taxes is that, and that's 28 million, roughly 28 million, went the wrong way. There's 28 million businesses in the US, and 96% of them are under $1 million. Now, what's the shift that gets somebody across this hump? It's skill stacking, learning, system and process, and all those things that we talked about, generating revenue, hiring people, marketing and sales, operations, accounting. Accounting and finance really matters. You master these skills, and then you transition into the they. This is what my company helps companies do. Transition from I to we to they to a team. You'll come in, we'll talk to you about who's on your team today, what your technology looks like, how are you selling, what's your model, what's the magic, and then we'll help you craft a plan to jump to the next side of this four-sided craziness. It's fun. These are the things that we do, which is super cool. Executive assistant. How many people in here have an assistant that just makes their life better? All right, about a third, maybe a fifth. Big deal. Making your life better. But marketing, inside sales, customer service, and accounting, these are the building blocks of every major business, which is super fun and cool. I'll give you the book. I loved how Eric, man, I got to take some of that lines. I'm going to need he's written 3 or 2, and it's good.
Don't steal my third.
Yeah. Leaders eat lunch first? Is that what it was? Is it lunchtime yet? If you go to our website, myoutdesk.com/scale, you can grab a copy of the book for free, a PDF or an audio. If you'd like to go buy it on Amazon, that would be awesome. I don't make any money from it, though, just to be clear. Because we've been in business nearly 20 years and helped like literally 9,000 companies, what happens is these patterns keep erupting. And so these patterns are what transition your business. Because remember, leverage and wealth is a systematic approach. If you do it right, it's a systematic approach. And so we put all those patterns in this book to help our clients and customers, and really anybody who wants leverage in their world, to have a kind of a roadmap. Now, here's what matters. This is my favorite quote. Albert Einstein. Would you mind reading this one? Could you read it for everybody?
Yeah. Compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it. Albert Einstein.
Yeah, he who understands it earns it. The challenge is compound leverage is what I really want to talk about. Because what happens in compound leverage, so it's when, as a leader, you give a job away, you put it into a system and process, you create training for it, and then it's never your job again. Now that's leverage. Compound leverage is then, as the leader, you go out into the world and you find higher value things to do. Because you've just given away all your paperwork. You've just given away all of your calls. That's good. That's leverage. Compound leverage creates scale. Because if you're out there selling more deals, finding more deals, that's actually how you build wealth. If you're not, if you just delegate a bunch of stuff, it's a good way to have a great life. But it's not going to create wealth for you. I love that beep. The point is, and this is the question, I want to make sure you guys have it. Where in life could you use leverage? What are the low value things? And intuitively, we all know it. How many people in this room mow their own lawn? Anybody? Oh, okay. We got a couple. If you want to build wealth, you got to give up that. And replace it with one more deal. Maybe two more. So the question to ask, the whole point of this conversation is, where could you use leverage? All right, step by step, I got to roll because I heard a beep. I guess I didn't have much time. Do a self-assessment, a realistic. If you're crazy, by the way, come on up here. If you're crazy, maybe you need friends to help you with this. Do you know what crazy means? You view yourself a particular way, the rest of the world sees you a different way. That's the definition of crazy. So if you're realistic about who you are and where you're at in the life, fine, do a self-assessment. If you need help, get friends. 2, write your plan. You guys are going to do that today, I think.
Yeah.
I'm excited for you. 2, by the way, this is how you need to think about a plan. If I couldn't fail, if there was no constraints, what do I want? A lot of dreams out there on that board. Some of them small, some of them big. Use leverage. Any tool that can give you an advantage. Aaron?
Yeah.
Golden.
Let's do some questions and stuff. So, well, let's sit on stage for a second. I want to say a few things, but let's give Daniel a round of applause. Oh, Dan, don't run away. Come sit up here with me.
I'm just putting it back,
Don't
man.
sneak. So this morning I'm sitting with a lot of gratitude. What's funny, because you guys have got to meet and see and hear from some of the guys that have been the crucial guys in my life that I met over the last 7, 8, 9 years in a room just like this a long time ago. Right? And at that time, this that you guys have been experiencing for the first time the last few years was our thing.
Yeah.
Right? And so getting to see, McCarthy and David Osborne and Daniel Ramsey and Daniel Del Real and all these guys that we've been living life together for the past, 7, 8, 9 years. And I'm just having so much gratitude that I can call these guys up and say, hey, I know you're busy. I know you're doing all sorts of things. Will you just come talk to these guys over here? Because this, what Rockstars really is, what this mastermind has really become is us trying to recreate and give back, the gift that was given to us that really changed our lives. We've been trying to recreate here, what we got. But again, I'm sitting with so much gratitude today as I see some of my best friends in the world here who flew out here to share some stories because I said, hey, will you guys come out and talk to these guys today?
I would not. I want to just say, I went to my first event in 2014, so it's been a decade. And I can tell you, it's through the peer group and what you guys are doing right now that has transformed everything for me. And I'm talking about everything. My wife, my kids, my life. I mean, you can literally, with the right group and the right people around you, you can have anything in life you want. Like really anything. You just have to be in rooms like this.
Yeah. Yeah, Daniel's story might have sounded linear just now, right? He was an agent and a mortgage broker, flipped some houses, started investing in some stuff. Sounded linear, like it just kept growing, and now he's buying and owning hotels, and his hotel, did he say they're like waterfront Lake Tahoe, like this, like some really cool stuff, right? But linear, you guys know my story was not linear. Made millions, lost it, made millions, lost it, made millions, lost it, and then knock on wood, right? But it's always touch and go, you never know. That's why you live life to the fullest today, just in case. Daniel's story, I sent Daniel a picture this morning. I texted it to him. Him and I were on an Emirates flight to South Africa.
Best airline.
Best airline ever.
Oh my God.
We were two kids in a candy store, business class, Emirates. They're feeding us the whole time. Like the whole thing is like, that's the first time I'd ever done that. The first time I realized that when you hit a certain level of like wealth and experience, like the trip starts when you get on the plane, not when you get to the destination. But I sent him the picture because the picture of him sitting down, we were both pretty proud of who we were at the time, health-wise. We were both pretty proud of who we were money-wise. And the picture I sent him was a lot like his before picture on there.
Yeah.
He was a lot heavier. I was a lot heavier. I hadn't like done any of my fitness stuff yet. But we had just started growing on our journey. And so we have a 16-hour flight to Dubai, and then we spent a couple days in Dubai, and then we had like a 10-hour flight to South Africa. And one of the things that he said before, it's like maybe a few days before we flew out there, we were meeting 17 guys in South Africa. That was a long trip too. I think we were there for like 2 weeks. McCarthy was there. But before we got on the plane, like maybe 2-3 days prior, he texted me over his one sheet, and he said, hey, send me your one sheet, we'll review it on the plane. He had been in GoBundance for a year prior to me. I was newer, definitely, and it was like, hey, this is the thing that we do. He's like, hey, fill out your one sheet, send it to me before we go. And I was like, wow, because his one sheet said how much money he was, because it's everything, it's your business card, but it's like, this is how much money I made last year, this is how much I'm hoping to make, here's my net worth. And as I've gotten to GoBundance, I was really excited to start sharing some of that stuff, but it was still like, oh well, he just shared it right away. So I did my one sheet, and it has a lot of different stuff on there. But one of the things on the way, both of us had like 2 or 3 kind of big problems in our business at the time. And he said, okay, so here's the problem in his business. He had a partner in my outdesk at the time. And his partner did not have the same vision that he had for my outdesk. And Daniel said, I'm gonna take it to this crazy thing that hindsight's 2020. Daniel took it there and more. Right? His partner said that would never be possible, let's not. So Daniel's at this time where he was having to figure out how to do like a hostile takeover / buyout of his partner in my outdesk. And he was going over the strategy with me on the plane and how he was going to do it. And it was pretty wild because he said, I am going to sign over all the properties that I own to his partner. He was like, so I'm going to give him this house, this house, this house. I'm going to sell my personal house and give him this cash. He was cashing out everything. So everything he had built over those first several years of his business, he cashed out everything to bet big on my outdesk. And he's like, so what do you think of my plan? And I said, that's a bad plan. Like, you were gonna give, like, because we talk about multiple streams of income and everything else, and he had all these multiple streams of income and all these assets, and I'm like, you're gonna give up all your assets for this. And I was also like, from a very practical standpoint, I'm like, you're paying X millions of dollars for this when it's not worth that. When I'm looking at the valuation of it, and I'm like, you're gonna pay, twice what the company's worth just to get your 50% back. And Daniel was like, no, but what it's gonna be worth. when I have full control over it. So sometimes like reason makes you, or practical like reason and deduction would make me not do something, right? But I mean, when Daniel's saying like, hey, what would happen if you couldn't fail? Like he put his money where his mouth is many times, you know, and as he was first starting my outdesk, you know, finding VAs in the Philippines, it wasn't that easy. Like it's like there's a lot of competitors out there. It's fairly easy now, but at the beginning he was flying coach to the Philippines, sneaking into like other places on the plane to try to like take naps as he was going.
17-hour flights.
17-hour flights. It was not Emirates. It was not like lay down. It was, you know, I share about how I had to fly to Texas to start my business. He was doing crazy things to try to build this because his friends would say, hey, can you hire me a VA? And he'd have to fly out to the Philippines to find one. Right? So it wasn't quite as easy as it is now. So Daniel's journey, I guess my big point was Daniel's journey wasn't linear. He is one of our biggest behemoths of our GoBundance members. You know, 7-8 years ago when we were on that plane, we were pretty equal, and now he has taken off like an exponential rocket. And one of those big reasons is one, he bet on himself. Another is he bet on something, all in on one thing, really, really, really big. And he focused on that until it blew up, and now he is rediversified. So now he has the hotels, and now he has the other things, and he can do it. And that's a pretty unique part of Daniel's story, and it's been really cool to get to watch that along the way. Any questions, comments, like somebody wanted to say something they heard? We got one in the back.
William Singh from Portland, Oregon. I'm a very big systems guy, so I loved like all that aspects of things.
Yeah.
But especially when it comes to leverage, I think a lot of times you start looking at the price tag, especially I just actually hired my first virtual assistant full-time this January, like going full-time.
Congratulations.
But like, how do you make those decisions when it comes to understanding when you need to really hit that leverage point or pay for, you know, something you can't really, or you're very afraid of potentially paying for and not being able to support that? Because that's like one of the bigger fears I have. So I wasn't sure how you had any certain frameworks of thinking about that or anything of that nature that could help guide.
Yeah. Two things. One, fear is how you know you move forward. If it's comfortable and easy, it's probably not the path. So Netflix is very easy. One more beer is very easy. One more dessert, very easy. Quite honestly, for me to be here today, it wasn't easy. Like, I love this guy, and I'm going to be here because he asked. The reality in your scenario, though, is dollar productive activity. The one thing that matters is getting the new client, finding another deal, creating relationships, partnerships where you can drive revenue. Because remember the I, we, they. Most people stick in the I because they're afraid. So give this person one thing at a time. This is another. This is a hiring thing. So in your notes, put on the hiring thing. We think that they're as good as we are, because I'm paying you. You should be, right? But if you've ever gone to an NBA basketball game, like on TV, they look normal size because they're all huge. But you sit floor side and you look up and you're like, that guy's a monster. I don't want to fight him. I don't know if you've ever been in a room with Shaq, but I look like a toy to Shaq, and I'm 200 pounds, That's how we are in this room as entrepreneurs to our employees. So remember that. One, Shaq performs, Jordan performs. You need to go out and perform, and they're not going to be as good as you. That's okay. Give them a lane, teach them one thing at a time, put it in a system and process, get an audit system. So, if you call a customer service place, they have call reviews. There's one dude somewhere in a room who listens to a bunch of calls and scores them. That's a normal business thing. But for us entrepreneurs, we don't think about it. You delegate something to somebody, you got to actually check. You have to inspect what you expect. And so that's kind of the model. But you just keep giving them one thing at a time. They crush that thing, you give them another. They crush that thing, you give them another. And then one day you look up and you're like, okay, I've got to add value now to the business so that I can keep this person employed. And that vicious cycle keeps going. It's vicious, believe me. The challenge is, as you've got your first assistant, well, guess what? At some point, you got to hire a salesperson. At some point, you got to hire an operations person. Now, you've got a higher caliber person who you then have to add value to. See, every single business transaction is a reciprocity. It's an exchange. You're giving money, they're giving a service. That's how life is. So as the owner, we think, well, I own the business, I don't have to do anything. That ain't true. You've got to add and serve your people at a really high level, especially if you want to keep them over the long term. In business and scale, turnover is the enemy of scale. Like, you train somebody, you get all these things done, they know how to do it, and they're like, I found another place for $1 more. Like, what? $1? Like, let's talk. What's going on? As a great leader, you'll earn the right to be in those conversations and save those employees. And I just challenge you to keep going. Find dollar productive activities. Focus on the things that matter inside your business. And that real estate deal, I shared it because I found a deal. All the other stuff didn't matter. It wouldn't have happened if I hadn't found a deal. So there's that one thing. In our business, it's like we have to find clients. Clients is the one thing. Placements of a virtual assistant with a company like yours, that's the one thing. Everything else is just kind of there. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
He's like, no. That's so funny.
Derek Tellier, Smoky Mountains of East Tennessee.
Yeah!
First and foremost, I want to double down on being around and being in the network and being around the right people. I met both of you guys on the same trip.
Yeah,
and everybody in this room suffers from imposter syndrome at some point, including the two guys on the stage. I want to point that out. And I was suffering big time from imposter syndrome in 2022 as I was trying to grow, because I was really halfway up my hockey stick. And I sat at a table at lunch or breakfast across from Daniel one day, and we started having a conversation about one sheets, and he was talking about where he was, and I was just like, holy shit. But we sat there and had one of the most genuine and honest, just human-to-human conversations that I've ever had in my life. And this was a person that was just so multi-decades ahead of me. And what I recognized in that moment is that I belonged in the room. That was my moment, even though I was a year and a half into GoBundance. That moment, sitting across the table and having a human conversation with a person that was so far ahead of me, made me realize that we're all just people, and we're all just going through the same journey, and we can all get there. So, for the people who aren't there yet and you think you can't get there, all you have to do is be in the room. It will happen if you listen and you follow and you do the things that we talk about. I suffer still from not doing the things that Daniel and I talked about 2.5 years ago at that lunch. My question for you is, as you were going through your journey, whether it was on your honeymoon, whether it was building my outdesk, how did you identify those most important dollar productive activities? Because when we're a solopreneur and we're doing it ourselves, it is so hard for us to identify the one or two things that we really absolutely need to outsource. Aside from the most basics, calendar, email stuff, what are the things, how did you figure out, this is what I need to delegate, and this is what I need to focus on?
Yeah, remember we talked about that self-assessment? And I wasn't joking about if you're crazy. I'd say 50% of the people in this room can't self-assess, and 50 of you can. So a self-assessment in this world is just simply, what am I doing? And then attach a dollar amount to it. So each of you, if you look at last year's tax, whatever you had to tell the government you made, you can divide that by your hourly rate, and you can figure out what your hourly rate is. But if you're on Instagram or Facebook, or like talking to a coworker or talking to a vendor, that's not dollar productive activity. So you would just mark that as, I wasn't working, right? So there's this concept of sticky challenge. Everybody has stickies at their table right now. You just follow yourself around, write down the activity that you did and the time frame. This is Bain, McKinsey, they would call this a time and task survey. But in your life, transformation is hard, and it requires a little bit of discipline. This discipline is like, I talked to a person for 30 minutes. Are they a customer or not? No, they're not a customer. What are they? They're a vendor. That's a lower dollar activity, it's just a lower dollar value. So if you do that long enough and are very cognizant of what you're doing throughout the day, you can get really good at knowing what you should be doing and what you shouldn't. If you're not, and you're one of the other, if you're just crazy, you got a time block. You're like, all I'm doing in these 4 hours is talking to customers. You know? Those are the kind of the two tactics. Know what you're doing every day, know what you're worth on an hourly basis, rate the things that you do, and then assign a dollar amount to them. Or just time block and focus on your day. That's really it. There's not anything more. And by the way, the other thing that you guys could do is just actually look at your financials on a regular basis, both personal and business. 60% of the 28 million businesses in the US tell the government that they made no money. So that's a big deal. More than half of the businesses that are filing taxes say they made no money. So really important to just look at your financials, understand, how the business is doing year over year, month over month. And I'm telling you this stuff, but again, I've been able to look into the eyes of 8,000 entrepreneurs. 8,000 guys have given me their financials. I'm looking at their org chart. I'm looking at their technology. Those two things, that's it. That guy, Tyler, that I talked about on the plane, his calendar is blocked every morning. He's doing the things that matter.
Yeah, so if you're making $100,000 a year, right? You just divide that, but it comes out to about $50 an hour, right? So if 100,000 you're doing, comes out to about $50 an hour. So the whole concept is what did I spend an hour doing that I could have paid someone $49 an hour, right? And if you could pay somebody $20 an hour to do that task, or $15 an hour to do that task, then that's where that true leverage. In theory, even at 49, you should do it, right? But it's even better if you can pay somebody 20, 30, 25, $20 an hour. When we first did self-assessments, we sent a timer on our phone one day, and it was just to go off every 30 minutes. And then every 30 minutes, you just write down what you did the last 30 minutes. Just do it one day. Have the timer go off every 30 minutes. Whenever it does, you just write down what did I spend my last 30 minutes doing. Because it is kind of hard to figure out what did I do today.
I'm like a Tasmanian devil, so I'm just running through the world doing things. Some other decision points about what to give away. Things that are easy, that are already in a system and process is where I'd start. I picked mowing lawns, doing your laundry, cleaning your cars. And you don't have to pay somebody to do these things. You can actually hire a service. In the beginning, a CPA can do your books. You can hire a company to do most of your transactional paperwork. There are a lot of outsourcing companies that will do a specific task for you. Hey, I need somebody to do X, Y, and Z. You can find a company now that does that. So I would just look at your life and say, what do I hate doing? What do I love doing? What pays me the most? And where do I actually want to go to accomplish my goals? And just make sure you're looking at those on a regular basis.
Yeah. One more question.
One more good question.
Pressure's on.
He's like, damn it. The pressure.
Hey, I'm Brandon from Baltimore, Maryland. I heard you mention you want to know more about sociability and coin. I'd like to tell you more about offline.
Yeah, let's go.
When you were saying, you were a friendly contractor to get paid 90 days later.
Yeah.
So that really motivated me. But my question is, you have a virtual company where you place these VAs. I've had a bad experience trying to go direct to hire VAs. I do understand it's a lower cost, but it just hasn't worked out. I feel like the takeaways is I need to have an auditing system first and foremost, but for me it was little things like unreliable internet, the time zone, what feedback do you have for me just to overcome that? I can't stop if there's a hurricane there. What do you think? And also another part is, where do you see AI going? Do you think that's going to affect the VA market, since a lot of these things can be automated with ChatGPT and other things like that? But hopefully that's clear.
He snuck in a second question.
Yeah, those two questions for sure.
I'm going to do as best I can to go as fast as I possibly can on the first and the second. So our company has overcome all those challenges. When you go direct, you're going to experience some hiccups. A lot of people are doing that. you're going to save money. So the question for you that I would have is, if you focused on getting one more deal a month versus worrying about hiring a virtual assistant, like what would that do for your business? Like that's my mindset, is like, hey, if I can go out and find the whales and like crush the whales, I don't need to worry about swabbing the decks or, you know, making the nets right. I just got to find a whale. And so that would be my mindset around that. AI is really interesting. We're in the works right now of, you know, developing our own stuff. Being the largest company out there, we have some leverage in that we have this data set that is just kind of crazy. I think humans like humans. I think it'll be a tool. I underwrote a apartment the other day in ChatGPT, and it was badass, because I would have had to give that to my CFO, who is a properly trained CFO who worked for a large consumer goods company, and she is a badass on Excel. But I'm certain that it would have taken her a day or two to actually pump out what I pumped out in like an hour on ChatGPT. So I view it as leverage, right? Any tool that gives you advantage. And so I would encourage everybody to use any possible tool to win, because that's what life is.
All right, real estate rock stars. So hopefully you guys loved hearing one of our speakers from last month's mastermind. If you are considering joining us for next year, now is the time to sign up. We're only going to have ticket sales for the next 30 to 45 days. And after that, we cut it off so that way we can focus on providing value and not selling tickets. So for the event this next year, February 25th to 27th in Austin, Texas, if you're interested in getting a ticket, you can go to realestaterockstarsmastermind.com. And if you want to chat with me about anything, as always, come find me on Instagram at Aaron Amuchastegui. Thanks for listening.